The elixir of life, water. One of the simplest compounds, yet one of the most important components without which no organism can remain biologically active. It covers almost 3/4 of the planet Earth. Some organisms live out their entire life in water. Some partly, and some organisms live much away from water bodies. But the biological necessity of a raging thirst is experienced by all. We have a variety of water bodies on this earth. These could be oceans, estuaries, lakes, rivers, streams, swamps, and ponds. All the water bodies form an ecosystem of their own. These are called the aquatic ecosystems. A common lake is one convenient example. Now, what makes it a complete ecosystem? Lakes are inland or freshwater ecosystems characterized by still waters and have fairly stable abiotic and biotic regions. Lakes can be divided into 3 life zones. The one closest to the shore is Littoral Zone. The sunlit body of the lake is Limnatic Zone, and the zone below the level of light penetration is Profundal Zone. Microscopic organisms suspended in the water column are called plankton. These are important components of the ecosystem and are divided into plants or phytoplankton and animals or zooplankton. Phytoplankton are mostly photosynthesizing algae that become noticeable when they reproduce to the extent that a green scum appears on the water. Zooplankton are the primary consumers and feed on phytoplankton. Generally, the plankton of lakes is dominated by green algae, filamentous blue-green bacteria, and small crustaceans. Some aquatic plants are visibly rooted in the shallow littoral zone of the lake. Animals like insects and fishes that are able to swim against the current of water are called nekton. Other organisms of the lake are neoston and benthos. Neostones are the organisms that live on the surface, where atmospheric oxygen is available. Benthos are the bottom-dwelling organisms, mainly bacteria and fungi, that feed upon the dead organic matter which falls from above. The photosynthesizing plants, phytoplankton of the lake, form the group of producers of the food chain. Zooplankton and other herbivorous organisms like insects and fishes are primary consumers. These are consumed by secondary consumers like crustaceans, large fishes, frogs, ducks, and tertiary consumers. Dead plants and animals are taken care of by organisms of the benthos. They are the decomposers and therefore release the nutrients for reuse in the lake. So, these interactions make the lake a self-sustaining unit, and the lake can be classified as an ecosystem in itself. Lakes are not only examples of a natural ecosystem, but are of immense importance to us. These water bodies cater to almost all basic needs of inhabitants dwelling in its surroundings. Water from lake is used for various domestic, agricultural, and industrial purposes. Fish from the lake provide food and employment to many. Plants growing in lakes are harvested to be used as fodder and manure. Lakes provide a suitable habitat for water birds too. Lakes are also a source of aesthetic pleasure and water sports. Water, being the universal solvent, invariably contains many soluble salts. Different types of salts released by weathering of rocks, soil erosion, and decay of organic matter are readily dissolved in water. Presence of salts in water makes it saline, and percentage of salts determines the salinity of water. A sea is an example of highly saline water body. Depending upon the salinity of water, lakes are classified into two types: freshwater lakes and brackish water lakes. In freshwater lakes, the salinity remains below 0.5 parts per thousand, whereas in case of brackish water lakes, salinity can be as high as 35 parts per thousand. This is mainly due to the close proximity of a brackish water lake with the sea. On receiving excessive salts from the sea, the lake water acquires more salinity and water becomes brackish. India has a large number of both freshwater and brackish water lakes. If the conditions are favorable, freshwater lakes can be formed anywhere as a result of various natural phenomena like glacial action, landslides, river meandering, volcanic action, and so on. Brackish water lakes represent the tail end of the river that comes in contact with highly saline water body like a sea. It is here that the mixing of fresh water and saline water occurs. Brackish water lakes that terminate into a sea are called estuaries and have an intermediary environment between fresh and saline water. Estuaries generally are highly productive water bodies. This is because the water is not very saline like that of the sea and is rich in nutrients brought to it by the river and the sea. Certain special types of life forms with an inbuilt mechanism to control the concentration of salts in their bodies grow extremely well in the brackish water habitats. These organisms are called euryhaline organisms. They have a physiological adaptability to withstand a wide range of fluctuation in salinity. Of course, only few small fishes live permanently in a brackish water lake. Many of them develop there. Brackish water lakes provide protective environment to the developing fish, shrimp, and mollusks. In India, the largest brackish water lake is in the eastern coast in the state of Orissa. Chilika, the pear-shaped lake, is famous world over because of its enormous size and ecological importance. In fact, it is the biggest inland lake in the country. It has as many as 100 tiny islands, which are used as picnic spots. They further add to the ornamental beauty of the lake. It attracts tourists from all over the world who throng this lake throughout the year. All along its arched shape, Chilika is encircled by hills rich in varied forms of fauna and flora. Water spread of the lake is about 900 square kilometers in summer and approximately 1150 square kilometers during monsoons. As many as 10 streams and rivers bring fresh water to this lake. The northern part of the lake is fed by the tributaries of Mahanadi, River Daya being the main contributor. Another main contributor is River Bhargavi. These rivers and other small tributaries bring nearly 3 lakh cusics of fresh water to this lake. At the eastern end, Chilika is connected with the Bay of Bengal through a zigzag channel 35 kilometers long and about 360 meters wide. Its southern end also meets the sea through another channel 15 kilometers long called Palur Canal. These canals are the source of saline or seawater to the lake. The salinity of the lake is intermediary. That is, it's between the fresh and the seawater. Its salinity varies with the quantity and quality of water brought to it by the rivers, and also with the degree of mixing. At the southern end of the lake, that is, near the Palur Canal, the salinity of water goes up to 35 parts per thousand, whereas salinity decreases gradually as we proceed towards the northern end of the lake. Due to the inflow of flood water during monsoons, the entire lake becomes saline and gradually turns into brackish water. It attains its peak in July. Rivers always bring eroded soil particles called silt with the water, which eventually is flushed into the sea. But when the silt load is high, it starts settling at the bottom of the lake. Chilika receives about 13 million tons of silt per year. This quantity is quite high and is endangering the ecology of the lake, for the lake itself is quite shallow. Its maximum depth is only 3 meters. Sunlight penetrates into almost every part of the lake. So, all green plants, wherever they are in the lake, can perform photosynthesis and prepare their own food. This is one reason for the lake being highly productive. The lake inhabits a large number of microscopic plants and is luxurious in larger plants too. Potamogeton, Scypus, Halophila, Phragmites, Najas, Gracilaria, Anteromorpha, and many other species predominantly flourish in the waters of Chilika. The productivity of the lake is evident from the average plankton mass that ranges between 0.03 to 0.27 milliliters per liter of water. The plankton growth shows 2 peaks, one during April to August, the other during October to November. During the first peak, phytoplankton dominates the lake, while the second peak is dominated by zooplankton. Diatoms, which are unicellular algae, are the chief element in phytoplanktons, while Copepods are the dominating organisms among zooplanktons. Chilika serves as an important source of fish and prawns. Nearly 152 species of fish and 21 species of prawns are found in the lake. The annual yield of lake is about 3,500 tons. The chief catch being Mugil cephalus, Mugil magrolapsis, Polyninum, Hilsa, Lates, green and mestos. A large quantity of prawns and fish from this lake are exported, bringing valuable foreign exchange to India. The alga gracilaria is also harvested from the lake for preparation of agar. About 120 villages in and around Chilika, with the population of nearly 60,000 people, depend upon this lake for their livelihood. Chilika serves as a benign habitat for different types of birds, resident as well as migratory. Migratory birds come to Chilika Lake in early November and depart by the end of February. They take shelter in a small marshy island called Nalaban, which has been declared as one of the natural bird sanctuaries of India. It has small bushes and reeds that provide shelter and healthy breeding habitat for all birds. The Chilika Lake serves as a healthy breeding ground for certain varieties of sea fish that require an intermediary environment for breeding. But, unfortunately, Chilika, the haven of so many life forms, is becoming a threatened habitat due to ecological degradation that it is facing of late. Reasons are many. Siltation is one of the innumerable reasons. If this grim situation continues, the life of Chilika may come to a close very soon. It could be ecological death or a physical one. Normally, death of lake is a natural process. All the lakes tend to shrink in size with time as siltation takes place. Silt and dead organic matter are deposited at the bottom and the periphery of the lake. But this process takes much longer time under normal conditions, as the lake receives very little quantity of silt every year. On observing a lake from year to year, we find that the swamp marches towards the center of the lake from all sides. Simultaneously, the bed rises on account of deposition of silt. After a period of time, in this entire process, the lake gets converted into a landmass and is occupied by the flora and fauna of the area, where the lake actually existed. In ecology, this process is called hydrocere and may take hundreds of years in case of large lakes. Nature has introduced this process to compensate for the formation of new lakes, which is an ongoing process. But human indifference and greed for their selfish gains may increase the speed of this process several folds. Chilika Lake is also being threatened by human activities. Visibly, the lake area is shrinking very fast. Original area of this lake was about 2,200 square kilometers and presently is reduced to only about 900 square kilometers. This is mainly as a consequence of fast and heavy siltation. Rivers bringing water to the lake are heavily loaded with silt. Silt is a form of unprotected soil prone to erosion by water and air in the catchment area of the rivers. The increased amount of silt is the result of deforestation, as the catchment areas of all rivers which meet Chilika have been denuded. The forest cover has extensively been cleared off. Every year, nearly 13 million tons of silt is being discharged by these rivers into the lake, and in turn the lake offloads the silt into the sea. With excessive siltation, only a part of silt is offloaded into the sea, and the major chunk remains in the lake, due to which its bed further rises up, making the lake more shallow. Tracing back the history of the lake, it is found that there were 3 mouths feeding seawater to the lake. In 1973, an old mouth near the Moto village became defunct due to sand deposits. At present, only 2 mouths are functional, and both are facing a serious threat, again due to the high input of silt. Another threat to the lake is in the form of solid and liquid wastes being discharged into it from surrounding human settlements. These wastes are received by the lake either directly or flow into it with the river water. Increasing population all around the lake and in the vicinity of the feeding rivers is making the situation worse. This has led to an increase in BOD and COD of lake water. BOD is the biological oxygen demand of the lake. It is the quantity of oxygen required by decomposers to decompose the organic pollutants present in the water. COD, on the other hand, signifies the amount of oxygen in water required to decompose the carbonaceous pollutants present in water through chemical means. So, high BOD means higher concentration of organic pollutants in water, and high COD conveys that the lake is highly polluted chemically. Of late, it is evident that siltation and pollution are the 2 major threats to the lake today. Another threat that the ecosystem of the lake is facing now is on account of excessive exploitation of its resources. For instance, the innumerable prawn traps in the Magarmukh neither enable the prawns to travel to the sea nor allow the mullet fingerlings to come to the lake, thereby affecting their natural breeding habits. Besides, the Magarmukh itself is facing heavy siltation. So, analysis of the degradation portends a sad commentary about the future of the lake. Therefore, to maintain the unique ecosystem and the tranquil and the serene beauty of this lake, immediate corrective measures need to be taken. Besides, the lake has reduced to nearly half of its original size already. To stop the inflow of silt, the catchment areas of its feeding rivers prone to erosion have to be protected. This can be achieved by means of afforestation and by checking further deforestation in catchment areas of the rivers and also around the lake. Above all, the flow of pollutants to the lake in liquid or in solid form needs to be controlled. In order to remove excess silt, dredging or desiltation, if necessary, has to be undertaken. Overexploitation of the lake needs to be checked. All these efforts and many more, as suggested by scientists, can enable the lake to live its full lease that nature has granted it. And we too can enjoy all its bountiful qualities. It's certainly our sincere efforts that will keep Chilika, our natural heritage, alive, and not as any other page of history in its prime.